You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as t-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. All major credit cards are accepted to make your shopping experience easy and convenient. So once again, click on the store tab on www.israelsportsradio.com.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools. Redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Live from Studio C at the Cherry Hill campus for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Down goes Frazier. He scores! High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
Welcome to another edition of Sports by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. A lovely evening for sports here, live from the Cherry Hill campus of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. 856-330-4749 if you want to get your voice heard, or you can tweet at me at the Yossi G, or send me a Facebook message, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk. There's a lot of things to get to, not a lot of time to do it, so we'll hop right in with this big story in baseball, and we'll get to the one that everybody wants to hear. But first, we got to talk about the Prince and the Pauper, and that being Prince Fielder. The Detroit Tigers got rid of roughly $70 million in cap space by trading Prince Fielder last night, officially, to the Texas Rangers for Ian Kinsler. Now, what the Tigers did was, once you look beyond the actual going ahead and getting rid of and trading this big bat that happens to sit at first base of what was once theirs in Prince Fielder to the Texas Rangers, they really did that in the hopes of re-signing Max Scherzer, who becomes a free agent, their pitcher, star pitcher, who becomes a free agent in 2014. And by doing this, by moving Fielder, they are also able to now switch Miguel Cabrera from playing third to playing first base in the hope of prolonging his career. You want to keep Miguel Cabrera, you want to keep Miggy in the game as long as possible if you're the Detroit Tigers. And by moving Fielder off the team, by trading him to the Texas Rangers, you're now able to switch Miguel Cabrera from third to first, and he doesn't really have to do that much in terms of moving around, in terms of always, it's not the hot corner, and he's got a pretty good glove, so you move him to first with the hope of prolonging his career. For the Rangers, it was a pretty easy decision. I mean, this is a team that wants to win the World Series and wants to win it now. I mean, they haven't won the World Series ever since Nolan Ryan took over the team. And you look at, as a president of the team, what he's been doing, he's been at the forefront of spearheading a campaign, it seems, hell-bent on bringing the World Series home to Arlington in Texas. They get power hitting from Prince Fielder. And even though Kinsler is gone and he's been steady there at second base for the Rangers for the last couple of years since he came up, Jurickson Profar, who has been Kinsler's backup in the infield, he's coming into his own, and the Rangers believe that he has what it takes to play second base and replace Kinsler there. Also, look at Profar, he's only 20 years old, and the Rangers got younger at the position, quicker, and possibly even better, but for the one key here, a lot less money than Kinsler's making. Profar is only 20 years old, so, in terms of numbers, it may cost the Rangers big bucks down the road, but they probably would love to have that quandary as to how much they would need to pay Profar to keep him in Texas. Even though the Rangers took an additional $72 million overall in bringing Prince Fielder into their fold, bringing him onto their team, the Rangers are still looking for another bat. They're not done yet. Brian McCann, free agent, used to play in Atlanta. Carlos Beltran, free agent, used to play in St. Louis. These are guys that the Rangers have been linked to, possibly to sign for a huge multi-million-dollar contract. Power bats who can, surround Fielder in the lineup, protect him in the lineup to ensure that you would be able to get the most out from Prince. Even though Prince had a dreadful 2013 postseason, he had no RBIs the entire playoffs, and he only hit 182 in the ALCS, you cannot point to that and say that postseason performance was what led to him being traded. Because one of the teams that was on Prince's I will not go to on his no trade list was the Texas Rangers. So if he didn't want to go there, then he wasn't going anywhere. Because he could have just said, no, I'm not going. And he has the right for that no trade clause. So when you come to that, you must realize that the postseason was not the reason for him going. It was unlikely that was the reason, because he would have just sat and stayed in Detroit. So I think it works out for both teams. The Tigers get, free up cap space so they can re-sign Scherzer, and they can move Cabrera to first to prolong his career. The Rangers get one of the bats that they really, really wanted in Prince. They are able to replace Kinsler with Jurickson Profar, and they still have the ability to sign another big bat in either Carlos Beltran or Brian McCann. But before I continue, I have to put out this disclaimer that I have never taken performance-enhancing drugs. I've never impeded on any sort of search through my house, on my person, whatever, a figure of authority wanted to know something. I said, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I had nothing, there's nothing to hide. I never did anything that shouldn't have been done, never said anything that shouldn't have been said, never lied under oath, none of that. Alex Rodriguez, though, man, you kind of have to feel for him. Sort of, in a really condescending manner. When you look at what has been going on with A-Rod, almost seems the last maybe 10, 11 years. He did take drugs, he didn't take drugs. Oh, I only took drugs then, I'm not doing it now. Oh, whoops, you're busted. Oh, yeah, I thought it was only vitamins. Going back and forth between the Mitchell report and Major League Baseball and did he, didn't he. The guy, when he went yesterday to this arbitrator that Major League Baseball and the Players Association set up to try to get to the bottom of this 211-game suspension that Bud Selig levied on Rodriguez. And, of course, Rodriguez went ahead and appealed that ruling. And he walked out of the arbitrator, stared the cameras in the face, and said, I didn't do anything. Staring the cameras in the face on the WFAN radio show a couple hours later, saying when he was asked point blank, did he take any performance enhancing drugs? And he said, no, I did not. He said that this is a witch hunt, that this is, he alluded to Bud Selig wanting his head on a mantle, as Selig, of course, is going to be retiring as baseball's commissioner, that this was the crown jewel. There's a lot going. I mean, there's a lot going on in this guy, and you got to look at at Rodriguez, that he wholeheartedly believes everything that comes out of his mouth. Doesn't matter that it goes back and he's stepping on his own words from what he just said a couple weeks ago, the day before, last year. It doesn't matter that he's contradicting himself. He always seems to believe whatever it is that he says when he says it. Because there was not an ounce of untruth in terms of his facial expressions. There wasn't an ounce of hiding anything from the way you looked at him when he said these things to the camera. It's really kind of cool how he believes his BS. How he believes all this crap that's coming out of his mouth. The guy lies. He's like a serial liar. Can't help it. Look, if you had $100 million at stake, would you believe your lie? I think I would. $100 million is probably enough to set up, myself, my kids, my grandkids, my great-great-grandkids, a couple generations. That's a lot of money. But you look at how he's done it. So much, crass and so much chutzpah. I mean, that's really the word. Is that he's just been, kind of at baseball's throat. And baseball just wants him to disappear. I think I could speak for probably every person in radio that says that, and every media member, that we don't want him to disappear. Because Alex Rodriguez is very entertaining every time he opens his mouth. Very descriptive. It gives us a lot of stuff to talk about. So keep on going, A-Rod. Keep on going, Alex. But in terms of this situation specifically, Alex Rodriguez walked out because he wants Bud Selig, the guy who essentially is calling him out. He wants Selig to testify. The fact that Selig has never testified at any hearing, at any substance-enhancing drug policy, anything like that, he's never testified in terms of a player's suspension, almost begs to wonder what would happen if Bud Selig would call out Alex Rodriguez on his bluff. What would happen? I venture to wonder if Selig says, hey, Alex, all right, you want me to testify? No problem. I'll testify. But you got to testify. I wonder what would happen then. I would love to see that. That would be so awesome. I want front row seats to that battle. I want to be right there when they're cross-examining both of them. Oh, that's going to be grand. But for now, we just hope. And we wait. And we'll see how and where this road, where it leads us. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about a guy's legacy in terms of A-Rod, and what the lasting impression will be, what the last chapter will be written about him, and the lasting impression that he will have on baseball. Because if this suspension holds up, I mean, you're looking at a guy who'll be about 40, 41 years old when he'll be eligible to come back to baseball. And I don't think any team is going to be willing to take him on. Because at that point, 41 years old, the Yankees will be out of, will be able to be out of that contract. Who's going to want him? $1 million or $2 million for a year? I can see that happening for a team that wants him as a mentor for younger players. But anything beyond that, even if he's a mentor, $5 million, no way. He's not going to be able to, he's going to want that, but he's not going to get it. No team is going to want to pay him that much for an unknown product or an unknown return investment. And that is really what this boils down to. A-Rod versus the Yankees, but more so, A-Rod versus Major League Baseball and Bud Selig. Stay tuned. This is going to get interesting. You're listening to Sports Talk with us right here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. When we come back, I'm going to break down just how awesome these Philadelphia Eagles have become. Don't go anywhere.
Honey, again you're sitting here sulking?
I hate my job and I don't know what to do to change it.
Get off the couch and go check out the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting? What's that? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting offers a career and lifestyle change through a broadcasting experience you won't ever forget. Log on to GoCSB.com to find out how a career in broadcasting is for you and not just the people you see on TV or hear on the radio. CSB focuses on many aspects of real-world broadcasting, and their knowledgeable instructors teach you through a hands-on approach so you're in the studio in no time. To find out how CSB can help you work in an industry you love, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out online at GoCSB.com.
Why work 50 weeks a year for a 2-week vacation when you can enjoy your job every day?
Don't just sit there. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Thanks, CSB.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back to All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. As always, 856-330-4749 is the way that you can climb on in and get your opinion heard. Or you can just send me a tweet at the Yossi G, or a Facebook message, facebook.com/sports talk with the Sports Rabbi. You know, during the commercial break, I was getting a bunch of texts, a bunch of tweets. I dropped that little teaser there about the Eagles, and a couple people wanted me to really break down the Eagles' upcoming schedule, specifically their home games, because let's be quite frank, until they beat the Washington Redskins this past weekend, until they beat them 24-16 this past Sunday, the Eagles couldn't buy a victory at the Lincoln Financial Field. They haven't had not one. The last time they had one was September 30th of 2012 against the New York Giants, when they barely beat them 19-17. So when you look at, that whole home field advantage type of thing, in terms of the Eagles, they are a Jekyll and Hyde type of a team. This was their first win at home. They performed much better on the road thus far this season, and they don't necessarily have what would be considered as a home field advantage in terms of playing at Lincoln Financial Field. However, I stepped up to the plate last week. The sports rabbi went down to the field, did my little thing there, got escorted off the Lynx premises by security, and guess what? The Eagles won. That's right. I'm not going to say it was all me, but hey, if the one above happens to speak through my mouth and make me his vessel for blessing, then hey, who am I to deny that? Right? Am I right? 856-330-4749 at the SCG or Facebook.com and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. But in terms of the next game, right now, when they come back, right now they have a bye week this weekend. Giants play the Cowboys. Huge game. Cowboys right now half game behind the Eagles. And the Giants are not that far behind after starting off the season 0-6. They've won the last 4 games. They are red, smoking hot, those Giants. And a victory by the Cowboys would pit them in a tie again for first place. A victory by the Giants would put all 3 teams in the hunt for the division crown going into the final quarter, the final month of the season. The Eagles play Arizona Detroit, and then Chicago, all at home. All three teams very good. Though all three games, I would not necessarily say are shoo-ins for the Eagles to win. Arizona, 6-4. Detroit, you're talking about a wide receiver in Megatron, and let's look at the Eagles' defensive backs are not the best. You have a wide receiver who can do the things that Megatron can do, the things that Calvin Johnson can do. I'll tell you, it might be a long afternoon there. It might be a long afternoon between Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson there for Detroit when they come to visit. But hey, and then, well, maybe Chicago might be winnable depending on what the quarterback situation looks like there. So, I mean, that of course will all be in due course. But I look at the Eagles right now. They are primed. They're in a really good position, 6-5. They win 3 more games. That's all they have to do. Win 3 more games, and they are probably going to take the crown. I think 9-7 gets you the crown. 8-8 might still get you the crown, but then you're going to have to hope for some certain type of tiebreakers to go your way. You don't want to take that, and you don't want to put that to chance. You never want to do that in the NFL. But in terms of the Eagles for this season, my oh my, this was supposed to be a rebuilding season. Chip Kelly, first year here in Philly. Quarterback battle. I mean, we are now living in what we call a Folesian society. This is Nick Folian dynamite here. Nicky Dynasty. Nicky franchise. What Chip Kelly has unearthed in Nick Foles is something that nobody, I don't even think Nick Foles himself, could have believed before the season started. I don't think so. I mean, everybody knew that it was only a matter of time before Michael Vick went down with an injury. And then Foles comes in, steps up to the plate, finishes that game with a win against the Bucs. In comes the Giants. They beat the Giants in New Jersey. And then came that fateful Dallas game, where he threw for 80 yards, got knocked out in the third quarter, had a concussion, had a quarterback rating of under 55. When you look at what has gone on from the Eagles, it has been the sheer definition of a roller coaster ride the entire season. They were supposed to be rebuilding. They go ahead, they give you some life, they give you some juice, you're holding your breath, they raise expectations. Up, down, the whole year it's been up and down. They have a 3-game winning streak right now, which has placed the Eagles in first place. And most people in Philadelphia not only are thinking playoffs for the Eagles, but they're expecting division win, first round playoff game at home, and people in Philadelphia have already gone so far as to try to figure out who the opponent would be. The Panthers, the 49ers, the Saints. Who's it going to be? Which one would be better for us? That's what you're getting. That's what you're finding around here in Philadelphia. Fans expect the team to do a complete worst to first trip by winning the division and then having a playoff game at home. I don't think there were many people who thought that this was going to be possible, that the Eagles would be in the playoff mix a couple weeks ago. They lost consecutive games to the Giants and Cowboys. They scored no offensive touchdowns during that time, just 3 points and 379 combined yards in those 2 games they were able to put together. The major part for that stretch, for those 2 games against the Cowboys and the Giants, was the quarterback instability. Nick Foles played really, really bad against Dallas before he left with that concussion. Vic lasted less than a half against the Giants before he was obviously rushed back from injury with that hamstring, but he re-injured it. And Matt Barkley, the rookie, finished both games, which were both games were winnable when he came in. But he threw 4 picks and lost a fumble in all, over, was it like 9 or 10 series that he was out there. And, of course, the Eagles lost both games. Look, I'm not blaming Barkley. He's a backup. He's a third-string rookie. You can't blame him for what happened. But part of the blame has to be put on him because he is kind of leading the team. He was given a winnable game, and that's what happened. But then Foles comes back, and of course we all know what happened in Oakland. Then Green Bay. Last week he ran for a score against Washington. And he's really looked good. And you looked at this kid, at Foles. It seems like no harm can be done to him. Or more specifically, nothing bad can be said about him. Because of the poise that he has shown in the pocket, the accuracy that he's shown on the field, and his, believe it or not, ability to make things happen with his feet. Even though that is one of the things that people would harp on, perhaps the only thing that people can harp on with Foles is that he's not fleet of foot. But yet, he goes ahead and he moves around. He buys you that extra moment in the pocket so that his receivers can get open. 856-330-4749. Jump on in, climb on in, or send me a tweet at the Yossi G or a Facebook message, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. And you look at how the NFL has broken itself down this year. I mean, look at the AFC even. You can almost ask the question if anybody in the AFC wants a playoff spot. All except for 3 teams in the AFC are within 1 game of the Jets and the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins at 5-5. The Jaguars and Texans are essentially the only 2 teams that are out of the playoff hunt. And you can even make an argument for the 9 other teams as they could be the favorites for that last wild card spot. The Buffalo Bills are only half a game behind a bunch of 4 and 6 team squads. And the Bills' next 3 opponents are the Falcons, the Buccaneers, and the Jags. 2 out of those 3 games are certainly winnable for the Buffalo Bills, who've won. They've coming off this really big victory against the Jets, 38-14 last week. The Steelers, remember them? They got off to their worst start in like 45 years. Well, they could also be considered favorites to win that last wild card spot because if for nothing else, then they have the most accomplished quarterback head coach combo right now of any of those teams in the hunt, in that mix for that last spot. The Jets' problem for holding on to that last spot, that last wild card position, is that the team has the second worst point differential in the NFL. Basically, that means more teams have scored more points against them than the Jets have scored in their games. So when you look at a team like that, you probably would figure they would be like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, guess who the other team is, who the worst team in the NFL is? It is those Jaguars. And to figure how the Jets are in the position where they are at 500 after having that many points scored against them is actually quite a wonderment, quite bewildering once you actually think about what it means. Look at the Jets' defensive back. They can stop the run. Rex Ryan has them dialed up for that, but they cannot defend against the pass. And of course, let's also throw in their quarterback situation, their quarterback conundrum with Geno Smith, who looks like a Jekyll and Hyde every single week. The Jets have gone the longest in the NFL with a win 1 week, lose the next, win the next, lose the next, flip-flopping back and forth anybody has ever gone in the NFL to open up a season. 10 weeks already. 11 technically, but they had a bye. That really then just goes to show how inconsistent this team has played and how much the team must improve in order to really reaffirm itself and its hold on that final 6th position, that last and final wild card slot in the AFC. When I come back, we'll break down some highlight games to watch this upcoming Sunday. And we will also break down some of the games from this past week that probably had you tuned in. You're listening to this right here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
It's been 48 years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
All Noise Radio. The noise. The noise. You can't ignore.
Welcome back here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. 856-330-4749. If you want to jump in, climb in here, this will probably be your last chance, because next segment we are going to be talking a little bit of hockey with our hockey insider, WFAN's Islanders columnist, Daniel Friedman. You can always, of course, chime in through the Twitter sphere. At the Yossi G is my handle, and you can also send me a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. Now, we're going to just break down for a moment last week's Jets and Bills game. And right now, when you look at going forward to this week, to the Jets playing Baltimore, the Jets have a Geno Smith problem. The rookie has had four turnovers last week. He had a passer rating of just a little bit above 10. 10.1 to be exact. Threw another pick six. That was his fourth this season. Smith, really, when you look at Geno, it doesn't look like he sees the whole field. He appears overwhelmed at times during the game. And when you look at what happened last week at the end of the Jets-Bills game, Matt Sims came in the fourth quarter and led New York to a scoring drive and looked better than Geno Smith did and more consistent than Geno Smith has all season. We have a controversy on our hands now, possibly. The Jets are not getting any good play from their high-profile cornerbacks. D. Milner showed no ball awareness last week. And Antonio Cromartie was completely roasted by Marquise Goodwin on a 43-yard score from E.J. Manuel. It's like, what's going on? Cromartie's not even playing close to the level he displayed last year. Going up against Baltimore, Joe Flacco, some of the weapons he has, the defense that the Ravens still have, it's going to be a tough task for the Jets to beat Baltimore, but we're all expecting a victory because at the end of the day, the Jets flip-flop every week, so this should be the week that the Jets win because last week they lost. The New York Giants handily beat the Green Bay Packers, the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers, and you know what? They displayed a legitimately strong effort against the Packers last week. Even though Scott J.R.R. Tolkien, whatever the heck his name is, even though he was playing instead of Aaron Rodgers, the Giants still showed up last week and played very, very well. They stuffed Eddie Lacy. He had no room to run, and he finished with just 27 yards for the entire day. Jason Pierre-Paul probably made the defining play last week with his 24-yard touchdown, interception return for a touchdown that he caught. A very acrobatic play that he made. But the Giants are at home. Dallas is coming to town. Should be a fun week Should be a really good game because both teams know what's on the line. Right now, the Eagles, they have the bye week in that division. The Dallas Cowboys, if they win, they're tied again with the Eagles for first. If they lose and the Giants win, then all three teams now are essentially in contention for that division crown. That'll be 5 straight victories for the Giants. Dallas is on its way fading out, and it really is going to boil down to the final stretch run, which, as a football fan, is really all that you want. You, as a football fan, just want to watch good football games. When teams are still involved towards the end of the season, that is what it's all about. The final stretch, the last 4 games, coming down the home stretch, the last quarter of the year, that is what you're playing for. I see the Giants on the up here entering this game and the Dallas on the down, and I see the Giants winning this game. Not by much, probably by about 4 points. I have the Giants there, 27-23. In the first game that I was talking about, the Jets, I would have them beating Baltimore 20-19. Talking about some of the plays that happened last week, it's just been discussions the entire week has been this discussion of the non-call on Monday Night Football. And, of course, on Ahmad Brooks' hit on Drew Brees. So first, let's get to the Brooks hit. The NFL Vice President of Officiating, Dean Blandino, he said that the call was correct, that Ahmad Brooks, when he hit Drew Brees, the reason why the flag was thrown for unnecessary roughness and subsequently the NFL has fined Brooks $15,000 is because you cannot make a forcible contact with the head or the neck area, even if the contact starts below the neck and rises up. That's what Blandino said. He continued and said that that if there's force to that contact, it's a foul. You watch the initial contact, maybe it was around the shoulder, but it rises up to the neck area and brings the quarterback down with the force. I don't know about what force he was talking about. I mean, yeah, of course, you're rushing the passer. You got to build up some speed to get past the blockers, get past the offensive line. Of course, there's going to be force involved. I mean, what are you expecting from a defensive player exactly? Tell me. Are you expecting that a defensive player you're going to start putting these tiny little minuscule bullseyes on offensive players and say that, hey, you don't hit that offensive player in that bullseye, then you're going to get fined. You're going to get called for a personal foul. Now, with this specific call, it could go either way. Because to the letter of the law, yeah, Ahmad Brooks was wrong. Because there was that force to the neck head area, and the referees today are taught, when in doubt, throw the flag out. And that's what they did. And they called Brooks for the fine, for the penalty. But come on. I mean, there's got to be some kind of way, some kind of method the NFL and the Players Association can figure out together where they really describe here what exactly is a penalty. Because it's really, for the defense, this is getting out of hand. It's turning into sissy football. You look at hard hits and tough hits and things like that. Very, very rare these days because everybody's scared to go high, everybody's scared to go low. And even if you go in the middle, what happens then when the offensive player ducks his head to try to avoid contact? You're going to hit him head to helmet and get a penalty. Now what? You, the defensive player, did what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hit towards the middle. You're aiming for the middle. You're aiming for his midsection. The offensive player lowers his shoulders. Guess what happens? Now you're fine with a penalty. Whatever happened to giving a fine to the offensive player for ducking his head? What about that? In terms of the Monday Night Football non-call, where you had Rob Gronkowski being, bear hugged in the back of the end zone by Luke Kuechly, and that allowed for safety Robert Lester to pick off Tom Brady's final play to ensure a Panthers 24-20 victory. There was a flag thrown. The flag was picked up. In case you're living under a rock, that's what happened in that play. And guess what? It seemed like there were a couple people who were living under rocks. Because the referee, Cleet Blakerman, confirmed that, yes, the back judge, Terrence Miles, who initially threw the pass interference on Luke Kuechly, But once the umpire and the side judge kind of joined together the discussion, they decided that the pass was uncatchable. Well, in case anybody missed ESPN's John Brankis's Sports Science, you would have seen and you would have witnessed, and that was the same thing to the naked eye, that the 6'5" Rob Gronkowski, who has an 8'3" reach, probably he was already decelerating. He ran to the end zone. As soon as he hit the end zone, he started slowing down, which would not. You're not asking for a guy to stop on a hairpin and jump forward with all that momentum pulling him back. He's already slowing down, so he's not going to have the momentum pulling him back. He's already in neutral, so to speak, and if he moves forward, he has a chance. Not necessarily is he going to catch it. That remains to be seen because we don't know. We just don't know. But he has a chance at catching that football. He has a chance at making a play on that ball, and certainly it would not have been intercepted because there would be no linebacker all up in his grill like Luke Oakley was, interfering with him. You can't call defensive interference because that is before the pass was thrown. This was done after the pass was thrown. That's where pass interference comes in. Maybe defensive holding should have been called. Do something. Come on, common sense here, boys. I guess that's why they wrote common sense in 1858, because common sense just isn't that common. Just quickly now, in terms of what Peyton Manning has coming up this weekend, it's against Tom Brady. Sunday Night Football, probably the game of the week. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, but we still don't know if Wes Welker, the former Patriot, is going to be playing in that game. He's out with a concussion right now, but we'll see what happens. Peyton Manning's got nagging injuries, that we all know that, in his ankles. He's going to be playing Brady for the first time since he lost to New England 31-21 back in October 7th of 2012. It's the 14th time that they're playing against each other. And Brady he's had Peyton. He's had his number. You know what? It'll be a lot of fun to watch this game because these two guys, they both were playing in the prime of their career together. Brady's still a couple years younger than Peyton, but still, both future Hall of Famers. It should be a fun showdown Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. That's for sure. Well, when we come back from this segment, when we come back from this commercial break, I'm going to bring in our own NHL insider, ask him some pertinent questions about what is going on in the hockey metro area. Dan Friedman. Stay tuned. Sports Talking right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. You know, the NFL is a huge contact sport, and there's a lot of violence that's, always going on, always on the forefront. And there is the call that was made between the 49ers and the Saints last weekend. But, that all of these various things are all in dispute in terms of hitting, where they have to be hit, up to not too high, not too low, kind of in the small little middle of the person's body. But in terms of sports as a whole, there's another sport that involves a lot of hitting, and that's the NHL. And joining us right now here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi is the WFAN's New York Islanders columnist and our NHL insider, Dan Friedman. Dan, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Very good, thanks, Dan. So you're looking at the games the last couple of nights, and certainly when you look at last night, what happened with the New Jersey Devils playing Anaheim, winners in overtime. What do you see going on with the Devils and how they've been playing over the last couple games, winner the last two, and just walk us through like where they were coming into this season and where they stand right now, technically, were the season to end at a ripe young age of only 21 games into it, they would be in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, you have to think they've been rejuvenated by the return of Patrick Elias. He had 3 points last night, if I'm not mistaken. So he's definitely added a dimension to their lineup they've been missing for the last several games. Marty Brodeur also has been, I think he's been in rare form considering his age. He's played like the Marty Brodeur we're used to seeing him from in the past. So that's definitely helped as well. I'm not so sure the Devils can count on that from Brodeur all year, and obviously even with Elias, that offense is still not so deep. So I'm not so sure how long they can keep this up for. But, yeah, I mean, if the playoffs started right now, they'd be, or they were close by, I think right now they'd be somewhat in contention. I think it's a little premature to suggest that they will be. I don't think they will be down the road, but they're playing better right now, that's for sure.
Well, I don't either think that the Devils are going to be making the playoffs this year, but have they been helped by Jaromir Jagr's play? Have they been helped by the ageless wonder?
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's still their leading scorer, and he's played much better. He played much better this year than he did last year, I think. He's been there for them. He stepped up, and again, like that's another thing. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to keep up all year. So again, that's where the lack of offensive depth, lack of overall depth comes in, and that's where it might hurt him. But yeah, when the guys like that are stepping up, you're going to have chance to win the game. And for the Devils right now, those guys are coming through.
Well, talking about guys stepping up, the New York Rangers also. I mean, talking the last couple games, they've lost some heartbreakers, some pretty close ones, but they got Rick Nash back. Before Rick Nash came back, it seemed like Alain Vigneault was tinkering a little bit with his lines and trying to figure out what may work, what may not work. And what have you seen from Vigneault over the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, with the way the Rangers have been playing versus the way perhaps John Tortorella used to mix and match with his lines? What do you see how that has changed with the makeup of the Rangers over the last couple weeks?
Well, I mean, the one thing I really noticed with Vigneault's Rangers and Tortorella's Rangers is that the defensemen are a little more mobile, a little more active in the rush. That's the one thing I've noticed. And that's one of the few things, and there are very few things about Vigneault's style that I like, but that's one of the few things I do. I like that he's involving guys like Ryan McDonough and John Moore and telling them to shoot more and encouraging them to join the rush and move the puck around. And Ryan McDonough's been producing lately, so he's been, he's directly benefited from that. And I think it's helped the power play. I mean, the Rangers' power play is better than it's been probably since. This is probably just as good as it's been since the days of Brian Leach. So for them, that's definitely been an added bonus. And that's the one thing. Like I said, that's the one thing I really noticed. As far as lines go, he's been mixing and matching. Tortorella was always mixing and matching. I think that's an important part of coaching. Is you've got to find the right chemistry when guys aren't getting going. Sometimes it takes a different set of line mates for them. Sometimes it takes a brief demotion just to put things in perspective for the player. It's an important part of coaching, and like Tortorella, Vigneault is he uses that too, and that's what you're seeing here.
Well, definitely you're seeing that. Also, the power play, like you mentioned, has been getting a boost, but certainly it probably is going to be getting a boost now that Rick Nash is back. How do you see Vigneault putting Nash and implementing him into the game plan with the way that a lot of the players on the team, on the Rangers, are clicking with one another? Where do you see him implementing Nash in to kind of get him back into game speed with the fact that he's been out for so long?
I don't think it's going to change much. I think he's going to play with, it's hard to say exactly who he's going to play with, but I would think it's pretty much a seamless transition. I mean, there are guys on that team that he's played with before that he's looked good with, on a line with. So I'm sure that's something that over time that they'll perfect. But I'd be shocked if he's going to play in the top six. He's either going to play with Derek Stepan, or maybe Brad Richards. Certain things are going to happen. What the exact lines are going to look like, you're not so sure. Like I said, he's only played one game since he came back, so it's a little early for that. But I would imagine it's not going to take too much. It's not going to be too much trouble for them to find the right spot for him.
Oh, I'm looking at some players on another team in New York that seems like they are a little lost and they're not really quite sure as to where they should be. The Islanders. What has been going on the island after there was so much positivity to open the season?
Well, what people have to realize is the Islanders, first of all, they aren't so deep on defense, but they've been really hit hard by injuries. I mean, they're without Lubomir Visnovsky, who's their second best overall defenseman and easily the guy who makes the power play work. So you can take that out of your lineup. They were without Thomas Vanek for the last couple of days. He was out with an injury. They've been missing other guys like Cal Clutterbuck at certain points. Michael Grabner hasn't been himself. So they've had some key injuries, and now Nabokov is hurt as well. So that's definitely affected them. And you take some of those guys off of any team, they're going to have struggles. But certain key guys that he produced aren't producing. Michael Grabner hadn't been scoring, and he was benched the other night because of that. Josh Bailey hasn't been coming through lately. So certain guys need to start stepping up, and that's really been the big issue. Defensively, they're a train wreck because they're not so deep to begin with. When you take out Lubomir Visnovsky, and I forgot to mention Brian Strait as well, who's also injured, and people underestimate how big of a boost he gives that defense. He's very physical. He's very reliable. When healthy, which he hasn't really been, and even when he's played, he hasn't been 100%. I'm convinced of that. And so that's been those two guys. Their absence has really hurt the blue line because you're replacing them with guys like Aaron Ness and Matt Carkner, and you're forcing every player on the defense to kind of slide into a position that they're not quite ready for. They're taking on responsibility that they're just not able to live up to right now. And that's what you see going on with the Islanders. And it really doesn't matter who's in goal. Kevin Poulin has been really good, I think, since the Bakken went down, and even before that in the games that he's played. But he's got no help in front of him on the defense whatsoever. And so, his goal against average is not in any way indicative of the way he's played. And like I said, certain guys in the offense also have to get going. So this is a team that really needs to kind of hit its stride and find its groove and, get a little more consistent. This season's far from over, and they've definitely shown things to suggest that they're a better team in the way they've been playing. But they got to get their act together in a hurry.
Well, a lot of teams go through the whole injury process during the course of an 82-game season. How much is the blame falling on Jack Capuano and Garth Snow, the head coach and GM?
Well, I'm not so sure how much falls on Garth Snow, but Jack Capuano, in my opinion, has really, like you mentioned, the hand he's been dealt is a terrific one. But in terms of his decision-making, in terms of some, lineup decisions he's made, in terms of situation management, I don't think he's that good of an NHL coach, to be honest with you. And I think the way he's handled himself in some of these situations is just insane. And, I'm not so sure when he talks to the press and he says something like, the defense was fine, or I thought we played pretty well in the third period in the game. They with 3-2, 2-0 lead going into the third, or that kind of thing. I'm not so sure how much he actually believes that, or if he's just, trying to step up and defend his players. But I also don't think that he fully realizes what it takes to get out of those kind of situations. I don't think he uses timeouts the way he should be. When at times when he could settle his team down when they're in the process of blowing a lead, and he lets them play anyway. There are certain things he does that just makes you wonder if he really has a clue what he's doing at this point. And I don't think he's that good an NHL coach. I'm not sure. I'm not suggesting that Scotty Bowman would win with this team, but I think the Islanders can absolutely do better. It's not a situation where you say, it's entirely Capuano's fault that they're not playing well. But it's not a situation where you say, Capuano is a good coach. And the bottom line is most good teams have good coaches. You look at the good coaches in this league, Jack Capuano is not one of them. They can do better. They need to do better. They should do better. And that's where I think, I really do think it's time to get to fire him. I've been very conservative on Twitter in terms of talking about whether or not I should be fired. But if you're asking me, I would start afresh. I would maybe look to hire someone else, maybe Peter Laviolette even. Even if it's an interim basis. But I think that they need to go in a new direction as far as the coach goes.
Well, we know how your relationship has been with the Islanders. The rocky relationship has been with that franchise over the past couple of years. But certainly another team that has gone, leaving New York just for the metro area for just a moment, another team that has gone through its own transition, certainly like you mentioned, Peter Laviolette, has been the Flyers, and they have the new head coach is Craig Berube, who took over from Laviolette, as everybody is so fond to remember, after just 3 games into the NHL season. the team, the Flyers, have been over 500 since Berube took over from Laviolette. He's coached okay. There are a lot of question marks in terms of why he was hired versus somebody else. But what has changed in your eyes from the Flyers, the way they've played, coming off a 5-2 victory over Ottawa, 10 goals in 2 games in a week and a half against Ottawa? Seems like they are the magic elixir for the Flyers. What has changed the most?
A lot has changed. I don't think it's a coaching thing, but I think the players in the room finally just woke up. I mean, the Flyers were never supposed to be as bad as the way they started the season. I didn't think they were a playoff team going into the year, but I thought, okay, maybe they'll be 500 or a little over 500. I thought they'd be at least a solid team. And I mean, the way they started out of the gate, it was just a disaster. I don't think anyone saw that coming. I don't think anyone saw Claude Giroux going that long without a goal. There were just so many things going wrong. And what's lost in all this, by the way, is the fact that Steve Mason has been amazing for the Flyers ever since he was acquired. Really, he's been. I mean, I think someone put out a stat that he's never given up more than 2 goals, or maybe that's happened once, maybe twice since the Flyers traded for him. I think that he's been so under the radar for that team. He's really kept them in every game lately. And like I said, Claude Giroux is stepping up. Certain guys in that room are stepping up. So yeah, I think the Flyers are starting to play the way they should have been playing all along. And I think maybe firing Laviolette was a wake-up call that they needed. I'm not so sure that he deserved to get fired, but it is what it is, and maybe it has woken him up. So that's what you're seeing in Philadelphia. I think they're starting to play a much better brand of hockey, and they're playing the way we expected them to.
Do you think it was only a matter of time before the Flyers got going, especially with a lot of the question marks in terms of the team itself? Forget about Laviolette and that whole coaching situation, but in terms of the team itself walking into the season, there was a lot of question marks, as it always seems. For example, with the goaltending situation, that was always a question mark with the Flyers for the last, 2 decades. Does it seem like they're finally just starting to play the way, it just took time for them to all kind of to come around?
Yeah, I think so, and I think a lot of it was also mental. Certain guys were struggling, and I think they were letting it get to them a little bit, and it was just almost like a snowball effect. With guys like Claude Giroux and Voracek who weren't playing particularly well, it just like I said, I think it just snowballed, and then eventually those guys snapped out of it, and we knew they would. I mean, I don't think anyone expected Claude Giroux to go that long without a goal, and I don't think anyone expected him to continue that as we went along. I think we all knew eventually he was going to break out. I mean, he's Claude Giroux. He's a great player, and when you have guys like that who are finally snapped out of it, then you're going to play better hockey. I think they would have woken up eventually. Like I said, regardless of who the coach was, it was a team that just had too much talent, and I'm not suggesting they have so much talent, but they were too talented to be playing the way they were at the start. And I knew that at some point that was going to change.
Well, right now we've seen how Claude Giroux started off the season. Right now, of course, 2 goals, finally getting on that scoring sheet. Before we let you go, Dan, I've been hearing rumors about a potentially upcoming book that you maybe have something to do with. Do you care to share anything on the program with us?
I'm not going to share too much, but I'm writing a book about my experiences as an under-25 sports writer who basically started as a no-name blogger and worked eventually started writing for WFN and worked for Stan Fischler at the press box at 21 years old. It's, just some of the experiences I've had, I guess, in throughout that short time, and that I think not many guys my age get to do, or people my age get to do. So I just, I've been writing the book in my head for about 10 months now, so I figured it's finally time to get started, and we'll see where that goes. Hopefully it'll end up well.
Oh, well, we hope it'll all go well. We wish you the best of luck with that endeavor as well as with the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us on the program, Dan.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, that was Dan Friedman, WFAN New York Islanders hockey columnist and our NHL insider here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. Well, that'll be all for the show. Thanks again for everybody who chimed in today, and of course to Dan Friedman for taking the time out of his busy schedule to join us here on the program. That's all for me. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your time in front of that TV or at the stadium. This has been Sports Talk with the Sports here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
All Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.